Welcome everyone. My name is Jane Lockhart and I'm a designer. I work both in interior and exterior design in residential and commercial spaces. Here on this channel, we are going to do lots of different things, but the series that you are going to see now following this video and a whole bunch of other videos is called Mad About Hue. It's basically talking about how to use color in your life, whether it's inside or outside, and how to make it effective basically for you. Obviously, I would appreciate it if you subscribe, or if you enjoy this, please add a like, because then it lets me know that I'm on the right track. Let's get started. This is the first in a series of episodes that's going to talk about color. So I figured it was probably a good idea to talk about the color wheel. For many of you, I know you learned about this in grade 6 and think that, why am I talking about this again? How is this in any way relevant to the rest of my life? Well, the color wheel has really developed in the last 300 years. The idea being that you have a spectrum of colors, so that's a rainbow, which is called the visible spectrum. It's taken and bent in a circle essentially, and that relationship of the colors within a circle allow each of those colors to talk with each other depending on where they are on the circle. Again, if that's sounding a little bit complicated, why does this matter to you? Well, where this matters is in your own house, for instance. So for a lot of people, they'll ask us, well, how do I know what color goes with another color? Well, that's based on the color wheel. So if we know that the color wheel is a visible spectrum, I'm showing it to you here with full intense colors, meaning red is full red and green is full green. So it's not softened at all. And that's essentially the nature of the color wheel that I have here. But as you add white or black to each of these colors, they start to change. So if I add white to red, it becomes pink, and so on. And the more white I add, the whiter or the lighter or the more tinted, which is a proper word for this, the tinted the color becomes. So eventually it's bright pink and then softer pink, softer, 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 till it's basically white. The same thing is true if I take red and I add black to it. It gets darker and darker and darker and darker. We call that, in English anyway, we call that burgundy or maroon. It has a special name, and that color changes again. So if you take any color on the color wheel, we can do that to it. So there's degrees of color or brightness or darkness of it. Now there is a whole language around color, and you may or may not be interested in it, but some of the key words that I'll use as I describe this are words like tint, tone, brightness, hue, chroma, and saturation. So as I say them, I'll try to describe what they mean to you. Now, if you are a designer, architect, or someone in the creative field that actually uses color, you'll want to make sure that you have the right vocabulary, because it is part of your whole professional approach to speaking to people about color. If you're a homeowner and you're watching this, you think, I don't really care about the name, that's no problem. It's just so you know that there is actually a language around this. So back to the color wheel. So we have all these colors in a circle on the color wheel that was developed to create a relationship. So we know that as colors get lighter, we tint them, or the colors on here can get darker because we tone them or get them darker by adding black. And we change the intensity or the brightness of the color. So intensity basically refers to how much color is in the color. So if I have very little color in the color, it means it's been toned, or the brightness of the color is taken down or toned. Generally, we refer to a color as being toned when it's got black and white in it. It's very gray. So on the color wheel, any color could be tinted or toned or darkened to change the intensity of it, but it doesn't change the relationship of each of the colors as they relate to each other across them. So one of the important words that does matter to you is if you have red and it's across from green, these two colors are called complementary colors. So any color that's directly across from another color on the color wheel is called a complement. So why do we call it a complement? This was created by other color people in the world in the past, because what they noticed with the color wheel, that a color like red, when placed beside green, its direct opposite, physiologically affects our eyes as humans. So here's what happens. You see those two colors side by side and they intensify each other. that means is the red makes the green greener, and the green makes the red redder. So if you go to your grocery store, or maybe you're lucky enough to have a butcher, that's someone that's close by to you, and I'm just using this as an example, and you go in, you can eat meat or not, and you happen to walk by, you may notice that red cuts of beef, for instance, are put on a green surface. Like they have little green hedges beside them. I don't know if you notice that. They kind of decorate the butcher cabinet. The reason that's there is because that green makes the red of your beef look more red or more appetizing to purchase. This is why in marketing and advertising, or any kind of box or presentation, and you want to make a product look better, you use colors to help intensify what you're trying to sell. So this is a perfect example of that. Now in your house, where this may be a problem, is if you have red mahogany cabinets that you put in the 90s and they're in good condition, but you don't want that red to look so red, well, the color that's opposite red on the color wheel is green. So when you're picking your paint color behind it, you don't want any green in that color, because the green will make the red redder. Let's talk exterior for a moment. Same thing in your own home. How can you make your house look better if you happen to have a brick that you're like, ooh, I'm not sure. I have this orangey yellow colored brick and I don't know if it looks so good. So how do I know what color to put on my front door? Well, if I want that brick to look better, maybe enhance the color of it around the door, then if my orangey brick is somewhere in here, I'm going to use a color on the door that's somewhere over here. Now, it doesn't have to be this bright. I could have brick that is actually this orange, but I can tint this or tone it darker, right? Add black to it and do a forest green. And that's actually going to make the brick look better. In contrast to that, if I have this orangey color here and I don't want my front door to stand out very much, I don't want people to come over and see me, then I'm not going to be here. I'm going to pick a color over here that blends in. Colors that are side by side on the color wheel, so these guys together, these three here, or these three, or however they are, if they're together side by side, they're called analogous colors. Or sometimes people just call them side by side colors, because that's a hard word, analogous colors. So analogous colors means that they blend in. They don't fight each other. And you can really get an analogous color scheme when you not only take colors that are side by side on the color wheel, but they're also the same brightness of color. So if we go back to your brick house for a minute and we think that you have a really strong brick like this kind of intensity of color, then you might match your door color to it. I'm not saying it'll look good, but you could do that. Or you can tone the color that's beside it. So maybe I have like a red-orange brick and I pick a color like this and I tone it and it turns kind of beige. Disappears. I don't see it as much. So that's how the color wheel works. So it's actually a really useful tool. Obviously, you're not going to take a color wheel like this and throw it in your pocket and travel around. So if you're really interested in a color wheel, you can purchase these from any kind of art store, and it's going to give you a really good pocket size with a lot of the descriptions on here. But the key things to remember is, number one, any color opposite itself on the color wheel is going to make it brighter or stronger when put beside its complement. Any color that's side by side on the color wheel actually calms it down, makes it more, I don't want to say disappeared, but relaxes your color scheme. If you want intensity, do your complements. If you want it not intense, don't do complements, do analogous colors. If you want colors to go lighter but still have the same relationship, tint them, add white to them. If you want the colors to have a deeper or richer feel to them, then what you're going to do is darken them by adding black to them or gray. Adding gray is called tone. Darkening is simply just adding black to darken the color. So I know that's a lot to take in, but the color wheel is super valuable and really useful. It's even useful in picking makeup for doing your own skin tone regardless of the color, because we still understand all the relationships that the color wheel has on it. So again, if you enjoyed this, let me know, because I don't know what people want to know, but if I get that information from you, it really helps me to know what to tell you, because frankly, It's all up here, and I can help you if you give us the information. Anyway, I hope to see you again on our next part of our series. We're going to talk about color psychology.